You ever live in one of those cookie-cutter suburbs where every blade of grass looks like it's been measured with a ruler, and every mailbox is the exact same shade of approved beige? That's Willow Grove Estates for you. Peaceful on the surface, but underneath it's a pressure cooker of rules, rumors, and one woman who thought she owned the place. I'm talking about my neighbor Ryan Caldwell, a regular guy, 42, electrical engineer, single dad to little Mia after his divorce. He moved here 2 years ago thinking this was the fresh start they needed. Quiet streets, good schools, the whole American dream package. Boy, was he wrong. Ryan wasn't flashy. He kept his lawn at the exact HOA height, parked his truck in the garage like a good boy, and never once let Mia's bike toys clutter the driveway. But he had one thing: brains and a healthy fear of Mother Nature after what happened back in his old place. For years ago, a freak blackout, caused by some squirrel doing acrobatics in a transformer, ruined Mia's 8th birthday party. No lights, no cake, no nothing. She cried for hours in the dark, terrified. That night, Ryan swore he'd never let his little girl feel helpless again. So he built the Leviathan, a 25-kilowatt portable power substation on a custom trailer. Diesel engine the size of a small car, inverters that could run a whole block, soundproofed so you barely heard it hum. Overkill? Sure, but it gave him peace of mind. He also installed a triple redundant sump pump system in the basement with a discrete discharge pipe painted to match the foundation and tucked behind azaleas. You'd need a microscope to notice it. 3 months after he finished, the doorbell rang. There she stood, Karen Sinclair, HOA president, clipboard glued to her manicured hand like a weapon, her face set in that permanent scowl that said the whole world was a C- she had to grade. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, voice like nails on a chalkboard, "we have a violation. That unauthorized drainage pipe is clashing with the aesthetic harmony of the community." Ryan leaned in the doorway, trying to stay polite. "It's painted taupe, Karen. It's behind bushes. Its only job is keeping my basement from turning into a swimming pool for my daughter." She didn't blink. Bylaw 7, Section 4, Subsection C. Drainage solutions must not disrupt visual continuity. Remove it or face daily fines. He explained it was life safety, not decoration. She just tapped her clipboard. "The covenants protect our way of life. Compliance is not optional." That was the spark. In the weeks that followed, laminated notices started piling up: tripping hazard, unapproved hydraulics, even excessive noise from water flow on a quiet Tuesday. Ryan used them as coasters in his garage. He smiled, nodded, said, "Yes, ma'am," at every HOA meeting, but inside he was documenting everything. He quietly installed security cameras aimed at the community utility junction box right on his property line. Just in case. Neighbors whispered, "He's the new troublemaker," they'd say at block parties while sipping Karen-approved white wine. Ryan stayed silent, collected evidence, waited. Mia asked once why the mean lady kept coming over. He hugged her and said, "Daddy's handling it, sweetheart. We're staying dry no matter what." The Weather Service started warning about a significant rain event. Meteorologists called it biblical. Ryan just smiled at his monitors. Green lights everywhere, pumps ready, the Leviathan fueled and waiting in the garage like a sleeping dragon. Karen sent one final notice: any unauthorized utility modifications will result in immediate enforcement. He read it, chuckled darkly, and kept prepping. Little did she know she was about to declare war on the wrong man. The storm hit like God had a personal grudge. Rain hammered the roof in marble-sized drops, wind howled through the eaves, and the thunder felt like it was trying to crack the foundations. Inside, Ryan was calm, sipping coffee, watching his monitor bank glow green. The triple pumps were cycling perfectly, sucking water out of the sump pit faster than it could rise. Mia slept upstairs with her nightlight and favorite stuffed bear, safe and dry. Ryan even texted his ex-wife, "Everything's good here. Leviathan's on standby if needed." Across the street, Karen's house glowed with perfect HOA-approved lighting. She probably thought her little kingdom was untouchable. But at 10:47 p.m., Ryan's phone buzzed. Neighbor Dave from 2 doors down, voice shaking. "Ryan, my window wells are filling like bathtubs. Sir Reginald the garden gnome is drowning. My cheap pump's dying." Ryan laughed. "Relax, Dave. My system's handling half the block's runoff already. We're good." He glanced at the monitors, still perfect green. Then everything went wrong. The basement hum vanished. Monitors blinked red, then black. The house lights stayed on, but the dedicated circuit for the pumps was dead. Ryan sprinted downstairs. Water was already creeping up the sump pit walls. Heart pounding, he grabbed his rain slicker and flashlight and plunged into the maelstrom. Mud sucked at his boots as he followed the buried armored conduit to the community junction box on the property line. The door was ajar. Inside, the big black breaker for his pumps had been flipped to OFF and secured with a bright orange heavy-duty padlock, stamped Harmony Willow Grove Homeowners Association. A laminated notice was taped inside, protected from the rain, final violation notice. Unauthorized utility usage terminated per bylaw 11. Remove offending pipe and pay fines or power remains disconnected. K. Sinclair. Ryan stood there soaked, rain streaming down his face, and for a second, he wasn't even mad. He was in pure awe at the breathtaking pettiness. This woman had braved a hurricane just to flip a switch and lock it. She thought she was enforcing rules. She had no idea she'd just poked a sleeping dragon. He looked back toward his garage where the Leviathan waited, humming softly, and a slow, dangerous grin spread across his face. He didn't panic. He moved with cold purpose. Hitched the trailer to his truck in under 2 minutes, backed it into the driveway with LED work lights cutting through the downpour like predator eyes. Dave yelled from his porch, clutching a pillow like a shield. "Ryan, what the hell is that thing?" Ryan shouted back over the roar. "That, Dave, is my declaration of independence from clipboard tyrants." He opened the control panel, fired the big diesel. The roar that answered shook the pavement. Deep, guttural, unstoppable. Neighbors' porch lights started flicking on as the vibration rolled down the street. Karen's canary yellow raincoat appeared like a beacon of rage across the lawn. She marched over, umbrella flipping inside out. "This is a violation of noise ordinances, zoning, everything. You cannot run an industrial facility in a residential zone." Ryan leaned against the truck fender, rain rolling off him, checking his watch with theatrical calm. "Actually, Karen, it's a registered trailer on private property. And that beautiful sound you hear? It's the sound of my daughter sleeping dry while your precious bylaws try to drown us all." She stabbed at her phone. "I'm calling the police. They'll shut you down." Ryan just waved. "Good luck. They're probably busy saving actual lives tonight." The police cruiser arrived faster than expected. Officer Ramirez, looking like he'd already worked 3 disasters tonight. Karen launched into her tirade before he even closed the car door. "Officer, this man is operating an illegal monster machine. It's causing erosion and flooding the drains." Ramirez took one look at the thick cable feeding Ryan's house, the pumps now roaring back to life inside, and the water jetting out of the discharge pipe like a fire hose of victory. He turned to Karen. "Ma'am, did you personally disable his flood protection system during a declared emergency?" She stammered. He was in violation of legally binding covenants. Ramirez's voice went flat. "That's not a no. This is a civil matter, but right now I'm not shutting down the only thing keeping half the street from becoming a lake. Go home, stay dry." Karen looked like she'd been slapped with her own clipboard. She shot Ryan a glare of pure venom and sloshed away. But the night was just getting started. One by one, neighbors started appearing. Dave first, then the Hendersons, Mrs. Garcia clutching her cat. Their cheap store-bought pumps had failed. Basements were losing the fight. Ryan looked at their desperate faces, then at the Leviathan purring like a contented tiger. "All right, folks, grab extension cords. Tonight Willow Grove has its own microgrid, and I'm the utility company." For the next hours they ran lines across lawns, orange and black cables snaking like lifelines. The Leviathan handled the load without breaking a sweat. Every new connection brought grateful hugs, and "You're a lifesaver, Ryan." That's when the twist hit, the moment everything changed. While hooking up the last house, Ryan's phone buzzed with a security cam alert. He pulled up the footage from the junction box cameras he'd installed months ago. Clear as day, Karen, at 2:17 a.m. The night before the storm, sneaking onto his property line with a flashlight, flipping the breaker, clicking the padlock shut. No board member with her. No vote. Just her alone, trespassing. But the real bomb was the time-stamped email that popped up right then from the HOA treasurer. Anonymous, but Ryan knew the sender. Ryan, she acted without board approval. Bylaws Section 14 explicitly states emergency overrides during natural disasters. Plus check attachment. The attachment? Photos of Karen's own basement. Her sump pipe was unpainted white PVC, twice the size, and she'd quietly waived the rule for herself last year. Hypocrisy on steroids. Ryan stared at the evidence, heart hammering with something between rage and pure elation. She hadn't just broken rules. She'd committed sabotage during a state emergency and violated the very covenants she worshipped. He didn't scream. He just smiled that slow, wicked smile again and forwarded the footage and docs to the entire neighborhood group chat with one caption. For anyone still wondering why their basements are dry tonight. The replies exploded. By 3 a.m., the group chat was on fire. She did what? That's illegal. I'm done with her nonsense. Ryan kept connecting houses while the messages poured in. Karen's lights were still on across the street, but her house was the only one not on the Leviathan's grid. She'd refused to ask. Pride, you know. Around dawn, the rain finally eased. The sun rose on a street that looked like a war zone. Muddy lawns, floating lawn ornaments. But every house hooked to Ryan's system was bone dry. Karen's prize-winning petunia bed washed away into a muddy trench that led straight into her basement window. Her standard-issue pump had failed hours ago. She finally emerged, designer boots ruined, face blotchy, holding a bucket like a peasant. She marched to Ryan's driveway where half the neighbors had gathered for an impromptu coffee and cable party. Turn this off, she demanded, voice cracking. You're creating a public nuisance. Ryan wiped his hands on a rag, calm as ever. Funny, Karen. My cameras caught you trespassing and locking my breaker at 2 a.m. without board approval during an emergency. Oh, and the group chat already saw proof your own pipe violates every rule you enforced on me. He held up his phone, footage playing. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dave actually laughed out loud. You locked him out while the sky was falling? That's not enforcement. That's attempted manslaughter by paperwork. Karen's face went white. She tried the usual Karen script. This is defamation. I'll sue. But her voice shook. Officer Ramirez, who'd come back for a welfare check, saw the footage and just shook his head. Ma'am, that's criminal trespass and endangerment. I suggest you go deal with your own basement before I have to file a report. The neighbors started clapping, slow at first, then louder. Mrs. Garcia shouted, we've been putting up with your clipboard dictatorship for years. Ryan saved our homes while you tried to drown us for aesthetics. Ryan didn't gloat. He simply said, tell you what, Karen. I'll run a line to your house if you publicly apologize to every family here and resign as president effective immediately. She stood there, rain dripping from her perfect hair, the woman who once ruled with fear now reduced to a soggy, trembling mess. For the first time in years, she had no comeback. She whispered something that sounded like, fine, turned, and sloshed back through the mud. By noon the storm was gone, but the Real cleanup was just beginning. Karen's resignation letter hit the HOA email list before lunch, citing personal health reasons. Nobody bought it. The legend of the orange padlock and the Leviathan spread faster than the floodwater ever could. Neighbors who'd once gossiped about Ryan now brought him casseroles and offers to help install a permanent, city-permitted bypass around the HOA junction box forever. 2 weeks later, Ryan and his contractor buddies finished the new setup, a 2-inch discharge pipe, gloriously non-compliant, twice the legal size, painted bright orange just for spite. No one said a word. The same people who once clutched their pearls at a painted pipe now high-fived him every time they passed. Mia, who'd slept through the whole ordeal, woke up the next morning to a dry basement and a neighborhood that felt like a real community for the first time. She asked Ryan why everyone was suddenly so nice. He ruffled her hair and said, because sometimes, sweetheart, the only way to fix broken rules is to remind people what actually matters. Keeping families safe instead of keeping grass the right color. Karen's house sat half-renovated for months, water damage bills stacking up while she quietly sold and moved to a condo downtown. No HOA, no clipboard, no power. The last anyone heard, she was on a neighborhood watch committee somewhere else, probably already measuring someone else's lawn. Ryan never gloated in public. But every time a new storm warning popped up on phones across Willow Grove, he'd fire up the Leviathan just to let it rumble for 30 seconds. A low, satisfied growl that said, "We remember." Neighbors would grin and wave. The orange padlock, mounted on a plaque in Dave's garage with a little brass plate. Property of the former queen of Willow Grove. May she never return. So yeah, folks, that's the story of how one man's overbuilt beast turned a hurricane into the day the HOA finally met its match. The lesson? In these perfect little suburbs, the real monsters aren't the storms. They're the Karens with clipboards who think rules matter more than lives. When the water rises, people don't care about aesthetic harmony. They care about the guy with the generator who actually shows up. Now I want to hear from you. Has your HOA ever pulled something this insane during an emergency? Drop it in the comments. And if you're dealing with your own clipboard dictator, remember, stay patient, document everything, and when the time comes, wake up the beast. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next neighborhood nightmare. Stay dry out there.